Are we? Hi, I'm Becky Shear. I'm the vice chair of the Maplewood Democratic Committee. Ian is unable to be here tonight. So we are meeting tonight with Jane Collins-Colding, who's right over here. She is the only candidate seeking our endorsement tonight for Township Committee, for the Democratic endorsement for Township Committee. And we had a number of people who are interested. They ultimately decided not to pursue a run when they considered the time commitment that running and serving takes. So we have one person who has sought our endorsement, but we hope that they'll consider it a run in the future, perhaps, and that everyone watches the info session that's on our YouTube channel about running for and serving on the Township Committee. And we are especially thankful to Jane tonight for stepping up to run, because we have Deb Engel is stepping down. She's not seeking re-election, so we're going to have an open seat. And we are also thankful to Max Kravitz. You can't see him, but he is the man behind the Zoom for his stellar tech support. If anything seems like it's up to a much higher standard than our usual recordings, that's because it is. So thank you, Max. So our endorsement process, we have a lot of district leaders here, and we also have some members of the public here and also on the Zoom. Thank you all for coming. So in our endorsement process, candidates seek out our endorsement. They write a letter of intent to our chair, and then they come to this public info session so that they can talk about themselves, and the district leaders and members of the public can ask questions. Next week, we're going to have a meeting of our Maplewood Democratic district leaders. We're going to convene here again, just the district leaders, to vote on whether or not to endorse. And our endorsement criteria here in Maplewood, for the Maplewood Dems, is a bit unique. We can endorse more than one candidate for a single slot if there are more who are seeking our endorsement and we all think that they'd be good representatives of the Democratic Party. Or we could endorse none if we don't think that anyone would make a good representative of the Democratic Party. So, so you're not off the hook, Jane. And it's, yes, so it's kind of more of a vetting process than it is an endorsement. We want to be able to pass the opportunity to voters for them to be able to seek select candidates rather than kind of party leadership. So, but it's more of a vetting process, I would say. And then the filing deadline is March 24th for all offices, not just Township Committee, all offices in New Jersey. And then primary election day is Tuesday, June 10th. So everyone write that down and make sure that you have it. You can either vote in person or vote by mail. And so before we, and that, I think that's it. And then we move on to the general. So before we get started, I just want to let people know about some upcoming events we have, since we have you all here. On Wednesday, our Assemblywoman Garnett Hall is having a fundraiser at Loom Cellars on Springfield next to the 7-Eleven. Everyone is invited. If you came in person, there's a flyer up there. And we're keeping the price point low because we really just want the community there and engaged. And so you can ask me about that after if you want. It's going to be a good time. There's going to be free wine. And we're going to have what's the board called when with a charcuterie board? It's gonna be fancy. It's gonna be awesome, actually. And this Saturday at 4 p.m. we are hosting along with Voter Choice NJ, a Rank the Desserts event to promote ranked choice voting in New Jersey, which is popular here. Our Township Committee was one of the very first to unanimously support a resolution for a bill that would allow localities to use ranked choice voting in their local elections. And it's going to be held right next door at the DeHart Community Center. You can sign up on the Voter Choice NJ website. And again, that's at 4 p.m. on this Saturday, and it's free. And on April 23rd, in about a month and a half, we're co-hosting a candidates forum for all the Democratic candidates running for governor at the Woodland. So far, I think we have 4 confirmed as attending. So we'll be sending out the registration for that. I think it's actually the April 23rd. Yeah, I think it's at 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. And sorry, yeah. Doors open at 6:30. So yeah, we'll send out the registration for that. And last but not least, we are meeting up at the Avenue after this for drinks. So if you're here and can come afterwards for drinks, it's going to be awesome. And you can talk to Jane more if she's coming. Oh, she's definitely coming. So, and if you're on the Zoom, hop off the Zoom and meet us at the Avenue to get to know Jane a little better. Oh, yes, sorry, March, yes. March 29th, we have Michelle, our treasurer, is hosting it at location in a very fabulous kitchen in Maplewood. The address is private until you register. So that is also something that is I think it's on our Instagram now, and we'll be sending out. But we have a few slots left at $75. Learn to make 3 Spanish tapas and drink some Spanish wine. And that too is going to be awesome. So is that anything more? Very awesome. It will be super. I don't know how you say awesome in Spanish, but it will be that. So tonight, Jane is going to first have a chance to speak about herself, her background, and why she wants to serve on the TC. And after she talks about herself, we'll open the floor to questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll pass the little mic thing to you. And so that you can be heard better on the Zoom. Kathy has that, or we'll figure it out. We'll get it to you. And then, and if you're on the Zoom, just raise your Zoom hand, and Max will let me know you have a question, so you can ask that as well. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic on to Jane so she can get started.
Hello, thanks for having me. First want to introduce my family. That's my husband, Russell Colding, my wonderful, beautiful daughter, Samantha Colding, and my youngest son, Thomas Colding. Say hi, guys. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for having me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. When this process started, I decided to introduce myself to the DLs, and I had to sit there all night thinking about what I do, who I am as a mom. And it was really a great start because I had to think back on all the things that I had done all these years and who I am and how I got to where I am. So first of all, I just want to thank the DL for having me here. Thank Maplewood for allowing me to serve. And I am in love with Maplewood. I love Maplewood. And I'm originally from West Africa, Liberia. I was born and raised partially in Liberia. I went to school in Kenya. And I came to the United States in 1989. So I was an immigrant. And I came here after the Civil War from Liberia. I have been here, I've traveled back and forth, but I've been here for many, many years. In Liberia, I've traveled back and forth, and I have a school in Liberia with 147 children in school. I attended the New Jersey University here in Jersey City. I lived in Bayonne, New Jersey for a long time, and I'm a mother of 5 beautiful children. My children went to, well, except these last 2, went to Columbia High School. I have been in every school district. I have talked to every single teacher, and I've fought with all the principals, and I've come down to the to the Board of Ed offices and made a lot of noise, so they know me in the school district. I went to Tuscan School the other day, and when I walked in, the security guard was there. She said, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Colding." And I said, "Hello." But I have a son who is 32 years old. His name is Al Colden. He went to Columbia High School, and he did a lot of drama at SOPAC when they had the drama program there at SOPAC, and it was just great. They had the kids from Columbia come and perform at SOPAC, and he wrote and directed 2 plays at SOPAC, and it was a sold-out house. It was amazing. My daughter, who is now a Spelman graduate, a Berkeley graduate, and law attorney, now works in Alaska, and she went to Columbia High School. And I was going to forget this other son, but I have a third son who is 21, and he is in Temple University, and he comes home every so often. He's 21, and he's just flushed, and I didn't know what that was, but it was very scary, but that was good. And I have Thomas and Samantha, who are babies. We're going to keep home forever, but they just don't know that yet. And we lived in South Orange for 15 years. We've lived in Maplewood, I think for 3 or 4 years. I just moved to Maplewood. All the kids left us. So we had to downsize and we moved to Maplewood. And we love Maplewood. It's so great. It's just wonderful. And we've been a part of the Maplewood family for a minute. But I know all my neighbors. I love it. I get out in the morning and I wave to everybody down the street. And my kids are now in Tuscan school. Well, is in Tuscan. And Samantha is a bigger girl and she's in MMS. So I just want to put that out there. But that's a little bit about me. I've done a lot of, I'm sure some of you already read my resume. I'm the chair and the co-founder of the New Jersey Black Empowerment Coalition. And we focus on empowering and teaching young Black men, women, and children how to empower themselves, how to we talk about healthcare, we talk about housing, we talk about wealth disparity, we talk about criminal justice. Those are all the things we talk about. And then we have a civic engagement where we teach them how to vote. We show them we show them just different variations of different things. And we have actually recently partnered with Black Voters Matters, Vote 16, GEM Project, We the People, and a group of other organizations. And even March 29th, we are hosting um, a democracy listening session at Bethesda Baptist Church. And we're going to be doing more of that throughout Jersey. So that's part of one of the organizations that we started about 3 or 4 years ago. I think we're about 4 years old. And then about 10 years ago, I started a Fee 2000. Fee 2000 Foundation came from empowering young men and women, teaching and training, and just being a part of our young people's lives. There was just a lot of devastation of drugs. Women couldn't find a way out. Young women who single mothers. It was a really, but it was just a sore spot for me because I was in Newark. And as I was leaving the shelter, I don't know why I was there. I was leaving the shelter. I was a young man walking out. And he had a plastic bag. And I said to him, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I just got out of jail. And they gave me this bag of food and a bus pass." And I said, "How long did you serve?" He had served about a few years, maybe 7 years. And he was in the foster system and he had nowhere else to go. And that tore my heart. In that moment, it was 10 years ago, I came home and I decided I was going to open a charity to help young men and young women because I thought, I just really, I needed to do something. There was an action that I needed to take in that moment. So we started doing Feed 2000 and we started going to shelters, Turning Point shelters. We fed to Isaiah House. We put food, Freedom Ministries. We did food programs in Columbia High School when the storm took place here in South Orange and Maplewood, where the Memorial Church, making sandwiches, dropping it off at the adult centers and older, people who couldn't get out to get food. We housed 10 people in our homes, which I don't want to look at my husband. We did, and we had them there for a week, didn't have any lights, so we just took them in because we could. It was great, and we cooked, and, that's just who I am. I'm a servant. That's what I do. It's in my blood. I can't get away from it. And when you're called to do something, there's nothing you can do. You just have to do that. And my brother's kids later on went into foster care, and I stepped up, took my brother's kids out of foster care. I took care of them, and I became a foster mother. So I foster about 20 children in our home. Don't look at my husband, look at me. And that was our lives for a long time. And they came in, I took care of them, and I loved it. I did not live in Hudson County, but Hudson County had me as a foster mother, and they wouldn't let me go. So when I was in Essex County, they brought the kids from Hudson County to Essex County, which they shouldn't have done. But I fostered 20 kids out of Hudson County, and we worked miracles. It was amazing. Some of the kids that came to us lived with us for 5 years. Some lived with us for 3 years, and that's what it was. And it was the most amazing experience. And through that, I had said to God, if I make it, I would do something extraordinary. And God reminded me that I had said I was going to do something extraordinary. So I opened a school in West Africa. So we have a big school now that is built. We have a church. We built a church in a village. We built a school. It took us 5 years to build. And we have 147 children in school in West Africa, in Liberia. And it's in Grand Bassa Village. It's an amazing program. And I don't know how we got here, but sometimes when I started to write and talked about the things that we had done, I was amazed that we had accomplished the things that we had accomplished over the years. And it wasn't me, it was me and my entire family and my friends that I lived side by side with in South Orange, the women that helped me feed those foster kids, the women that clothed them, my neighbors that dropped tons of clothes, to my door and came and took those babies when I needed help. And that's it was amazing. It was a community. And for that, I'm truly grateful. So I will stop now and, take some of your questions.
Thank you. So if anyone has a question, I guess raise your hand or raise your Zoom hand, and Kathy will hand you the little mic. Any questions? Sean?
So do you have any things that you're passionate about that you want to accomplish on the TC?
I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about what I'm going to leave for my family tomorrow. I'm passionate about our community. I'm passionate about how we live as a community, what our affordability would be in the next couple of years. I would love to see us, number one, we are in different times, right? We are in times that we need to recognize that we are going to be faced with challenges that it's not the norm, and we have to be prepared and we have to be ready. So we may have to pivot a bit and change some of the way we do things now in order to address the issues that we have. And I'm afraid that, the numbers tell me 55 to 64 is what, 13% of people live in their homes in Maplewood. And I think it's 65 and up is 11%, but 55 and 64 is 29%. That number tells me that some people cannot afford to live in Maplewood past 65. That concerns me. I want to die in this neighborhood. I want to leave my home to my children. I want to make sure that I can live here for as long as I want to live here. I don't want to be forced out. And what the next 4 years tells me is that there's a possibility that I may not be able to do it based on what's happening. And as much as I love to say, oh, I'm for housing, I'm for code, I would really like to say I'm for the emergency services that we need to set up, that we don't raise our taxes here. Services that we need to set up to say that our PSEG bill is not flying. I mean, I'm paying $350 a month. That's my PSEG bill. I want to address those issues. I want to know that we are able to live here and be able to sustain and live a comfortable life. So that's what I want to do. There's lots of things I would love to do, but I want to address the immediate things that needs to be addressed. And that's the person who sits in the White House in the next 4 years, that we are not going to get our funding. We are not going to get, things are going to be slashed. And in a matter of months, Maplewood will feel that effect.
Thanks. Max, is there the Zoom? Yeah, that might make sense, actually. We're gonna, sorry, Zoomers, sorry, I'm gonna reach over and speak into your mic sometime. We're gonna take questions from the people in the senior center and then move on to the Zoom thing, so make more sense. So, yes.
Yes. When you spoke about affordability, do we have any kind of rent control in Maplewood that would keep even apartments affordable? Oh, what do I have to do?
It's like a little mic. It's like a little mic.
Okay. Do we have any rent control in Maplewood dealing with affordability? Because I know when a lot of these buildings were built, they got tax abatements. Was there any thought about not being able to raise the rents incredibly every year?
So I don't know if Maplewood have rent control. You know, I done some research. I don't think so, but I could be wrong, and I can research that even more. But what I do know is Maplewood have affordable housing. Like on Irvington Avenue, across from the gym, we have an affordable housing there. And Maplewood is required to have 15% of affordable housing for any builder that builds within Maplewood. And the state has a mandate that we need to have 216 units of affordable housing in 10 years. And that is through the Monroe doctrine that's been passed and that we need to abide by those rules and regulations. But I don't know about the rental control, but I do know we have some affordable housing, and that's 15%.
We do.
Yes.
We do, but that doesn't do much for middle-class people who are being outpriced.
That's exactly the point I was trying to make. We are being outpriced. That's why you look at the 65 and up is only 11%, and that's exactly my point.
That's why.
And that's why we're here, because I think as a community, we can talk about what's wrong, but as a community, how do we work together to get that number a bit higher, where you and I can stay in our home? What does the conversation look like, and how are we talking about it together to have a common goal? Because part of what happens is there's a lot of responsibility put on the township. Oh, you guys didn't do this. You guys need to, but we need to hear from the community. That's your concern. We need to hear from you guys. What are some of the things that we can do together? What are your ideas? Let's all work together in order to accomplish what we want. Because if we're not talking, we're not communicating. Because divided we'll stand, but united, we can do this. And that's what Maplewood needs. We have 28 or 29,000 people, I may be wrong, in Maplewood. And for the times we're in, we need to stand together rather than apart, because there's too much hate. There's a lot of talent in this town. There's a lot of talent. Dean.
Thank you, Jane, for stepping up. I remember what it felt like sitting over there about 9 years ago. So if you're anything like me, you're sweating a lot right
Yeah.
now. But you look great on the outside,
Yeah.
so no one can tell. This is for you to answer questions. So, but I do want to address the very good question that was asked about rent control in Maplewood. Maplewood is one of 123 municipalities out of 564 municipalities in New Jersey that does have a rent control ordinance. It is an outdated ordinance, and we are looking to update it in light of the very important concern, the affordability concern, which is a national concern, and certainly in particular in New Jersey, most densely populated, a very grave concern. What we're looking to do is make it a more modern ordinance so that it applies possibly to more apartments. And we currently decontrol the units from rent control when someone moves out. And that's something that we want to look at to see if that is also outdated, and possibly is. So we will be looking to other municipalities near us that have adopted new rent control ordinances and making some advances and improvements in that regard. But back to Jane. So Jane, tell us a little bit about where you think your politics are as a Democrat. I think we're going to get into some of the local issues too. I have two questions. My second one is going to be about local issues. But I do think it's important in this moment in time that voters know that in their local leadership is comprised of Democrats of a certain kind. What kind of Democrat do you think you are? And what is that informed by? It could be informed by your professional experience. You shared a lot about your personal life story. It's an incredible story. Your faith. I've heard you talk about your faith being at the center of almost everything that you do and decisions that you make. But what kind of Democrat are you?
No, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I didn't know there was different kinds of Democrats. But thank you. Let me just say this. I'm about equality. I'm about fairness. I'm about you know, being on the right side of things. I feel like if we are in a society, and I'm not saying people don't have their own opinion about things. You have a right to feel the way you feel. You have a right to do what you want to do with respect. But when you start to trample on other people's rights, is when I have a problem. Is when I stand up and say, this is not okay. You know, I don't think if I'm that Democrat, I want to stand up and say, I don't want that happening in my neighborhood. I want to be the person that stand up and say, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to sit on the sideline. I'm not that Democrat. I'm not going to be sitting on the sideline. I'm going to be the person standing up. I'm going to be the person speaking up for someone else's rights. I'm going to be the one protesting along with my friends. I'm going to be that Democrat. I'm not going to shield. I'm not going to bend down and kiss the ring. That's not going to be that kind of party. I will stand up to people because part of what happens is we take a commitment to serve. We're servants. We are supposed to serve the community. And when we do that, we take an oath to say, you know what? We will put our feelings aside. We will put our judgments aside because we stand for the community. But sometimes when we stand, we get a little flustered because we want to go with what our friends say. We want to go with what someone else is say. What are you doing that's right? Who are you serving? The 26,000 people, what are they saying? So, I feel like I would take myself out of the decision making and I would make the decision for the people that I serve.
Would you say that you're a progressive Democrat or more center moderate?
I don't know. I'm still trying to define exactly who I am because I can be very different on different issues because I'm very open. I'm very open when people talk to me. I don't want to be on one side or the other. I'm very open to what people respectful to what people are saying. I don't want to say I'm this or I'm that and then find out. I just don't want to tell you something that I'm not. I want to be open to people. I want to be open to what I do for people.
So what are the issues that you think Maplewood is facing right now? And why would you be the best person to help Maplewood solve them?
First of all, let me
We
just
talked
say,
about affordability and housing,
yeah.
which is a statewide and national concern. What's Maplewood specific, you think?
Let me just say this. I think the Township Committee has done an extraordinary job.
Thank you.
And no, seriously, I've been in a lot of towns. I lived in Jersey City. I lived in South Orange. I lived in Maplewood. We've lived in Milburn. I think you guys have done an extraordinary job. I think for the amount of people you have on the Township Council, the amount of work that you guys do is amazing. It's amazing. The programs that you offer during the summer for the kids, there are tons of programs that I can't even go to all of them. And when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I missed that one. Black History Month, the programs are outstanding. There were 2 or 3 programs every week. Let's call it what it is. The township is doing a lot of work. How I feel I can be a part of the township is this. Let's give an example. The pool charges a certain amount every year, right? You go to the pool and you pay your membership fee. What I would like to see is for families who are below the poverty line, because we do have 3.9% families in Maplewood who are below the poverty line, I want to see that they can make a monthly payment over the course of 3 months. That's called affordability. Then they can afford to go to the pool. I don't want to go to the pool and see my friend's son standing outside because he can't afford to go to the pool. It breaks my heart when I go to the pool and I see young kids standing outside, and it's mostly Black kids, and let me just call it what it is, standing outside the pool because they can't go in, or they don't have a pass, or the parents didn't get them a pass. A couple of times I've had to buy passes for kids to go in, and it's unfortunate. But part of what we can do is let's make it affordable for families. Let's say $40 a month for 12 months that they can afford to go in, and maybe that's the only activity they have. And because my brother lived in the projects, my husband lived in the projects, so I know what hardship looks like, and I've had some hardship in my life. So when you talk about people affording to go, it's not because Why are these children at the pool? It's because they can't afford to stand around and wait until somebody can let them in. You know, I would like to see programs that's open to other families and kids are not sitting at home. And it happens. It happens right here in our neighborhood. What I could change? I don't know. I mean, you guys are doing so much. I think I can contribute in a lot of the things that you guys are already doing. And I can do, you know, I would love to see an emergency plan because, in all fairness, I think in the next 4 years, we have to be prepared for what's coming down. We got to think about how things are being cut. You know, we think about the veterans losing their jobs. It's coming down. It's going to come right down here into Maplewood. It's going to affect every single one of us, not just one person, all of us. It's going to hit every single pocketbook. So how is Maplewood prepared for this emergency situation that's happened on the federal level, state level, local level? When they cut our schools, who's going to teach our kids? I would like to see us talk to our retired people who were teachers and ask them if they will volunteer to teach our kids, or maybe not volunteer, maybe with a stipend or something. Let's start to have that conversation because we can't wait until something happens because it is coming. It's just a matter of time. It's coming. When it happens, how are we going to afford that? What are we going to do? Are we going to sit around and say, well, you know, if we knew, but this is the time. Come March, April, May, June, when that money starts to run out and we don't have enough, because the man in the White House, he's crazy. I don't know if anybody knows, but he is crazy. And he has a liability, Elon Musk, next to him. And this is huge. You have veterans all over the countries, you know, healthcare is being cut. People can't afford the medicines. And you have seniors that, you know, the food stamps are being cut.
Thank you, Jane.
Jane, thank you for stepping up and being the winner of the Survivor contest of the 6 other people who dropped out. So, I think your background, having grown up in countries outside the United States, well prepares you for this moment. I think the problem, one of the problems at a big picture level of the United States is that many people don't understand the alternatives to the democracy, peace, and prosperity, notwithstanding the severe inequalities and other problems over the last 15 years. And I think your focus on being ready to pivot is very commendable. Maplewood and the school board is definitely putting its head above the parapet and is in sight for exactly the type of funding cutbacks that you're speaking of. And that we all hope that we don't fall in the line of fire. But as a public servant, I applaud your thinking of those possibilities because we've spoken to what people want in town, but being prepared for not catastrophe, but what you reasonably think could happen, particularly to the school system, is very important. And I think your background living in societies that have not functioned well, that led you to leave, informs the way you think about it. And I think America, New Jersey, and Maplewood needs that type of thinking. So one of the most important roles of government, in my view, is helping prevent the worst case scenario, in addition to helping in solving today's minor issues. So while it may sound vague, I applaud your thinking about that. Let me ask a hard question. So raising 5 children and 20 foster children, did you ever sleep?
Is that an option?
Could you repeat the question, please?
So, you know, I said to my husband, it's a joke. I say to my husband, he said, Jane, will you come to bed? And I said, he's upstairs. And I said, I will sleep when I die. So that's a funny joke.
Yeah. So anyhow, I've spoken about very impressive resume. I think it's a great background to be a public servant. If you're willing to accept that, you get a lot of thank yous on the front end. You get a lot of thank yous when you step off the board, and in between, a lot of people are going to be critical of a lot of things. So thank you for stepping up. On your community service, most of them I'm familiar with. What is Isaiah House and what is the Hebrew Education Society, and what did you do for each of those two?
Oh, Isaiah House is a shelter here in, is it Irvington or I forget which, East Orange? And they house families or, yeah, families to take care of them, to feed them. It's like a transition house, and then they give them a place to stay. And I sat on the board for, I think, a while. And part of what my charity did was we took food because ShopRite, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Costco's were part of my donators for a lot of years, and Costco's, and we took food during the Thanksgiving. We give Thanksgiving meals every Thanksgiving. We do Christmas presents, which is really great. One year we did it at St. Barnabas Hospital at the children's unit where the kids were taking the chemo. So I'm like, okay, how will they play with toys when they're taking chemo? So we did the glasses, the flip-flops, the nail polish. So they just sat there taking the chemo, but they had the board games that Target had donated. So I went in, Target gave us all these board games. It was great. And so Isaiah House, we took food. And I think the Hebrew Society was some charity that I worked on in New York City over 20 years ago. So it was just another charity that I did in New York City, not, just working along with some of my partners, and I helped them with that.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions in the room, or should we kick it over to the Zoom for now? We can come back to the room if we have questions. So, Max?
All right, let's do Sean Bailey.
Sean Bailey.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for stepping up. You do have a very impressive story. But I have to say, I'm a bit floored by you not being able to answer whether you're a moderate or a progressive. So, I- you know, uh, I don't know what to say. Can I ask you a couple questions to try and maybe drill down on that a little more?
I mean, you could, but I probably wouldn't have the answer to you. And let me say this to you, Sean. I'm very new to this. I have never been in politics my whole life. I've been a mother of 5 children, and I've been a foster mother to 20. So everything about this is new to me, and that's wonderful. And I'm learning as I go along, finding myself, finding my space that I'm comfortable in. So I didn't want to make that say that tonight, because I wanted to make sure that everything that I'm talking about, that I believe in myself, I align with properly, so I'm not giving misinformation. So don't be disappointed if I don't have the answer for you today, but I can certainly say, ask me, a couple of weeks from now when I find myself and I start to delve more into what I want to do, what I'm doing here, and that sort of thing. I'm new to this, so I don't mean to disappoint you, but I'm sure it's going to happen again.
Yeah. Well, Kim, I'm just curious. Let's roll it back a little bit. Like you came on as a DL. How did it come that be that you wanted to be a DL, a district leader, for those who don't know what that means?
How did it come about that I wanted to be a district leader?
Yes, like what were you thinking about that decided that you wanted to get more involved in local politics? Were you
Well,
seeing things that you liked or disliked or?
Well, I don't know if there's anything that propels anybody into politics, but sometimes you get up one morning and say, you know what, I want to change. I want something different. I want to be a part of what's happening. I want to get involved. You don't have to be a seasoned politician to do what anybody does as a politician. You can jump in as a mama. You can say, you know what, I want to be a politician. I want to see the school system change. I want to see my community change. I want my trans daughter to walk around here free and safe. I want to be in politics because I don't like what they're doing. So, maybe some of the questions would be, why not? Why not get in politics? Why not jump into politics and be a part of it? Why sit on the sideline when I have 5 children? I have to live in this society that I will have to look out for tomorrow. I want to be a part of the change. I want to make sure I'm leaving my kids a safer community than I came into. I don't think anybody needs a real reason or has to be a seasoned politician to be involved in politics.
Of course not. I don't think that also. I'm just trying to understand, like, did something happen in your life? Well, most people have never even heard of district leaders before.
Well, I got married. Does that help a bit? I got married. I was just kidding. But no, nothing traumatic happened. There was nothing that I got up the next morning and said, I want to be in politics. But, I really looked at the climate of what was happening in the country. I looked at the leaders we had. I looked at how unfair they were. And you and I talked, and I said, look, I have to pick your brain a little bit about what's happening. And all of this is learning, right? I think politicians sometimes are not willing to learn from anybody else. They think they know everything. They want to go by what they know, and that's it. But I think we are all in a position to learn. We're all in a position to absorb information and, then make educated decisions later. But, I think I got up and just looked at the world we were in, and I said, no, I have to be a part of fixing what is here, because I don't want to leave my kids in a world that's so um, just so much hate. It's not okay.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
Thanks. Any more Zoom hands? Is it available now?
They can type it.
Hi,
Oh, hi, Joan.
Hi, John.
I'd like to ask you a question on a point you raised earlier about affordable housing. I agree with you that we do have a need for affordable housing. We also have mandated state quotas to meet our obligations. But how would you balance that with our already stressed infrastructure? With the increase in traffic, which has resulted in kids being hit by cars while they were crossing the street on the way to school, sewers that are backing up because the sewers can't handle the additional pressure being brought by the restaurants and by the multifamily buildings that are going up in town.
Okay, I sort of want to think about how I should structure your question, so I'll make sure I get to everything. So let's talk about the sewer system that you're talking about, right? We have a sanitary drain that drains, your waste will be your bathroom waste, your washer and dryer, and there's something else, your sewer that comes from your house. It goes into the sanitary drain, is cleaned out, and it goes to Elizabeth, and then cleaned up and dumped into the ocean. That's the drain from your house out. Talk about the storm drains that are outside your home, placed outside, and that's the rain that falls over. All the overage of the rain comes down, or from the trees, or the snow that melts, runs down your driveway and goes into the storm drain. And you think about that, the system is old, and that's what it came about. The system is old. I think the township talk about having the storm utility bill. And part of that bill is coming on your sewer bill in June. In June, you will get a bill that takes care of it, the average. They're going to raise about $900,000 to maintain that system, that drain system. The system is old, and you have backup because the system hasn't been touched for a lot of years, and that's why they're raising the money to be able to fix that, hopefully soon, and they will do it in portions. And if you think about that drain, that has been running for so many years, and you can't just start fixing in bits and pieces. You have to fix from strategic spaces, and you have to talk to engineers where to start, where to put the pipes, and how to line the pipes up. But The backup comes from part of it is pollution. People are dropping things on the street. There are things that are going to the drain, clogging the drains, and that sort of thing is happening. So, what they tell us is try to keep your yard clean, because when your trash and debris flashes all over and that water flows off your house, it goes into that drain, it clogs it. And it's a problem. It clogs that system, that very old system that we have. So that's why, I think a couple of years ago, a gentleman passed away. We had that heavy Ida flood, and he passed away. And that was horrifying, but it happened. So part of the fix now, we've had the problem. Now the action that the Township Committee is taking, they have taken initiative now to solve that problem. And this consists on raising this amount of money to fix that drain system that we're all talking about. Nobody can clap their hands and magically make it happen. And this is sort of talk about forward thinking. We're talking about emergency situations that we want to set up for the next 3 or 4 years while we have this person in the White House. But the same thing with the drains. Now we're having action. Now we're taking action in order to fix it. And that's with everything. We can't make things up. We can't, predict what's going to happen. I mean, nobody predicted that gentleman will pass away, but he did. So now we are in the place, the township is now set up a system that we will be able to maintain this and to fix that. And that's the fix right now, and that's what that is. So when you talk about affordable housing, your question was, how can we, you're worried about the amount of affordable housing that might come to the township. This is what I'm going to say about that. I'm for affordable housing. I have a lot of families, and this could be, I don't know if I'm coming from a place of bias, but because I've been the person who's been helping children, helping people in need, helping my neighbors and families, I know what it is to pay a $1,600 rent when you don't have the job to sustain or make it happen. And in order to be good neighbors, sometimes you have to give a little something in order to get something back. It may not be what you want, it may not be what I want, but what can we do as a community to extend ourselves to people who are in need? What can we do? I wrote it here today. Nelson Mandela had a saying, and I will read it because it just hits the, if I can find it, hold on one second. He said, as long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in the world, none of us, not one of us, can truly rest. And that is so true, because if you're thinking in your head and in your mind, I am good and I don't want this, at the end of the day, it's going to happen. You won't be able to rest. Because let me just put it to you this way. The people who thought, and I'm not just putting it out there to try to start a conversation and go back and forth with people online or to start a controversy. People who thought that Trump was going to go to the White House and deport every single person except their people who weren't, they were illegals too, but decided that he was just going to deport a certain group of people, but leave them alone. And they voted with that concept and that mindset. When he got up there, he put everybody out. He didn't look to the left. He didn't look to the right. He didn't say, these are my Trump voters. These are the people that I want to save. He went for every single person. And as a community, we have to be together. And it may not look the way that we can have conversations about what affordable housing looks like. And that's part of having a conversation with the community. That's why every single person needs to come to the table and talk about what affordable housing looks like for them, rather than saying, I don't want it, but let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation, have the don'ts and the do's.
You haven't answered my question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Now, my question was, how do you balance the needs for affordable housing with the needs for the existing infrastructure that we have and the limits, particularly with roadways and whatnot, of being able to build additional infrastructure? Also, with your point about sewers, Your solution is to have the utility, which has recently been approved of the Township Committee, which results in additional fees comparable to taxation, which means the cost of living for your 64 and above residents who are on fixed incomes and are trying to stay in their homes is now going to become even more of a burden than it was before. How do we balance the needs of existing residents, the needs of the maintaining the existing infrastructure, the quality of life that we have in town now, with the pressures to build additional affordable housing?
So let me just say this, the sewer bill ranges from $35 to $75. And if you have cement around your home, is based on the amount of cement that you have around your home, because that's where the water flows. That's part of the calculation of how you get billed. So if you have a tremendous amount of cement that the water flows directly into the drain, that means you have more water going to the sewer system. Okay, that's how they are structuring that payment. That's how that works. But I think you asked several questions, and the only problem, I'm going to be very honest, I can't put all the answers that you want in one space. Like I described to you, I talked about affordable housing, I'll talk about the roadways. I don't have the answers and for all of them. I don't have the fix for all of them. I wish I could tell you, I can do this tomorrow, or, if I got into the township committee, I would be able to switch things. But what I can say to you, I would love for you to work with the township committee. Part of it is having a conversation, because the question you asked is several different. You talk about affordable housing, you talk about the storm drains. These are things that we need to talk about. I really need to know what your thoughts are in terms of affordable housing, roadways, the dangers of the roadways, and the storm drains. So there's like 4 or 5 different issues. So we need to have an in-depth conversation so I can answer your questions correctly. And as a Maplewood community member, if you are saying to me, Jane, I want you to really talk about the fees. I don't like the fees and the fees that are associated with this. I could say, yes, on fixed income, I do agree with you, the fees are high, but what's our alternative? We are residents. Is there a relief that we can talk about with the township that can give elderly adults a relief system that helps you pay your storm drain utility fee? Now, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to have that conversation with the other board members, if I'm selected, to sit and say, look, a certain amount of people still can't afford this. Is there a relief we can put in place for them? And I think that's, something that needs to be talked about. But if you say what I can do, I can't do anything today. I don't have those answers right away. And that's respectfully, so.
Do we have any other Zoom hands?
Yes, Shannon Cuttle.
Shannon? Shannon?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Shannon.
All right. Hi. First, thank you so much for stepping up. I just want to appreciate that and acknowledge that, and also your time in joining us in the MDC. You've also been somebody who's very engaged since you joined us, though maybe, still kind of newish with us. You've been very directly engaged, so I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. I do, if I may, I have a tandem question, if appropriate, and then also a clarification, if I may ask, if time allows. So my question is, you know that the Maplewood Democratic Committee recently passed a resolution, of course, to affirm and support the LGBTQIA plus community. We designated that by saying LGBTQ plus as under our bylaws. And of course, supporting the LGBTQ plus community, trans and non-binary community, including with policy, state and federal legislation to ensure that we're pushing back against the current administration's attempts at rollbacks of trying to attack the LGBTQ plus community, especially trans and non-binary community at this moment. You've mentioned in passing here and there, but I was wondering if this might be the time if you affirm that commitment of the Maplewood Democratic Committee within our resolution, and also supporting trans and non-binary persons, not just in our community, but in democratic policy legislation, and also reaffirming Maplewood. I don't want to speak to South Orange, and I can't, but Maplewood, we are designated sanctuary community, I'm sorry, for the trans, non-binary, LGBTQ plus community, also our immigrant community. So I was wondering if you affirm those previous commitments by the Township Committee of Maplewood and Maplewood Democratic Committee, and we'll start there. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Shannon, yes. Thank you.
Could you speak maybe a little bit to how you will, as a member of the Township Committee, uphold and be an upstander in supporting those rights in the Township Committee as other candidates have in the past?
I'm sorry, I didn't get a question.
I'm sorry, I was saying, would you please be able to maybe even briefly extend your yes, thank you, to speak to how other Maplewood Democratic Committee, either candidates and or those that serve on the Township Committee, have expressed how they would uphold those values for our community in service.
So let me just say this. I was very upset when I found out that, number one, Trump had moved transgender women from where they were to the men's prison. Let me just put that out there. I was disgusted, and I was out of my mind, and I couldn't believe that happened. And they had denied the passport marks on the passport that's been taken. Let's just list some of the things. The marks on the passport has been taken away, recognizing they're only men, rather than women. They also, they're defunding medical for transgender youth. They want to bar, transgender, all these different things in schools. It's upsetting. This is part of what's happening in our society. And this is part of why, part of the reason, Sean asked Jane why you want to run. These are some of the things I saw, and I said, I have to run. And Shannon, one of the things I'm going to personally be doing is having a conversation with you and sitting down with you and saying how we can talk about some of the things we can do together. Because part of it, I want to be part of the forum and part of the protest. I want to be there. I want to be in the front line. I want to be seen. I want to be with the kids that felt not heard. I spoke to a father who, his name was Matt, yesterday. I spoke to a single father who had 2 kids. His daughter, the other gentleman's daughter was, she was trans, and he was upset. And we were having this exact conversation right across the street. He was upset about what's happening to his daughter. And we had just the most amazing conversation that, we are not going to sit down and let this happen to our kids. We are not going to sit on the sideline when you attack one person, you attack all of us. When you attack anybody in our community, you attack all of us. Our duty is to our children. We are supposed not only to serve, but we are supposed to protect our children. How dare someone put a mark on our kids' back? And this is horrifying. And that was part of, he was nearly in tears, expressing that we sat outside for 15 minutes. It was yesterday, right, Paul? And just talking to this gentleman. And, and we hugged, and I was so, I was upset. I couldn't believe it. We all need to stand up. We all need to fight for our kids. And this is the time we are in. We can't sit back. So part of what I want to do is start having some of the conversations and the protests. I say we go out there and protest. I say we pass more things in this community and sign on to bills and things that we need to protect our children. We need to put something together that makes a stronger stand than just writing stuff. We need to take action. I'm all about action. I'm all about moving forward in a very aggressive way, because they're not coming to us in a calm way. He has set us up to fail. He has taken a wrecking ball to this country, and he wants to break us down. I said in a meeting not a long time ago that in a town where there's a one man who has an eye, they call him the one-eye giant, he thinks he's king. And he thinks he's king in the White House, and he's going to wreck this country down to the ground, and it's going to rule from the federal level to the state and to the local. And this is exactly what's happening, because he will bring us down to our knees if we don't stand up and do something about what's happening now.
No, I appreciate your response. I do, and the enthusiasm. But also, just to clarify, does your stance also include supporting trans and non-binary students in sports?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My father played soccer for many years. I'm a soccer. I come from a soccer family. My father played soccer in Liberia for many years. My brother played professional soccer in Florida, and when he was brought to Florida, that's how we got a green card. America offered him a green card, and we all got on that ship. Well, like, we took a green card too, and he played professional soccer for many years. My nephew was just offered a soccer contract in FIFA, and he is in Spain, and he's only 15 years old. So I come from a family that plays soccer and sports, and we are open to every single body. So I mean, there's no, you can't play sports. No, you sit down. You can't play sports. We're not doing that. So I mean, that's not where I stand. That is my position. That's not where I stand.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.
Inda Sesher.
Inda,
Here I am.
Inda, you have a
Yes.
question?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have two questions, somewhat related. With your experience with the school district, I am sure you are aware that there is a federal Title VI complaint against Soma School District for anti-Semitism. As such, what are your plans to actively fight the anti-Semitism both in our schools and in our streets? And the second question is, do you think that permits should be required for rallies on public property in Maplewood?
Let's address the permits. I'm not sure about the permits. I don't know what the council or the TC members have set in place. I don't want to overspeak or say whether or not it should be permitted. I know some places require permits because they want to have permits in order to control the crowd. They want to make sure they have police presence there if it's a bigger crowd. I mean, we've done protests with the New Jersey Black Empowerment Coalition. Some places we go, you need permits because you have to have permits. Sometimes to give you police protection, sometimes they have you in a certain area. If you're near a school or supermarket, they control the traffic, and part of it is just for safety. I don't know what Maplewood Township has set in place, and I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna.
Okay, so just to inform you, Maplewood does not require a permit for the rallies that have been happening every other Sunday, on very offensive rallies on public property in Maplewood. And some of us have asked the Township Committee to tighten up their requests for permits. And in a year, this has been happening since October 7th, attacks in Israel. In a year, none of that has happened. So I was wondering what your thoughts on that would be.
You know, you know, just because you just asked the question, and I don't have any, I'm just receiving that information. So part of what I think is, I think that it would be, I would throw the questions back to the Township Committee as to why or why not. Are there restrictions? Is there something that's, you know, that they don't want to do that has been set in place for a lot of years? And I think that has to be a conversation between the community and the Township Committee coming to the meetings and talking about why wouldn't we have permits and why should we have permits. So, you know, we can go, you know, this is a community. Part of what we do, we have healthy conversations. We have conversations of what we want and what we do. We have a certain amount of people who may want it, or a certain amount of people who may not want it. and then you make the best decisions and talk to the professionals. You know, I'm not a professional in terms of how they do the permits, but I would talk to someone and say, why would the township give permits? And why do we give permits? Why do we allow permits? So if we allow permits and we were giving permits, are you saying you won't give permits to a certain group of people? That's my question to you. Because if someone came with the proper paperwork, right, to the township, are we saying even if we were given permits, you wouldn't allow those permits to be given to a certain group? Because part of what happens is people get permits, but you don't know how they're going to behave when they get out there with the permits. And sometimes we can't, the township cannot control behaviors. You cannot control how people act out of that after they get the permit and they go. They can do whatever they want with it. They've already gotten the permits. And the township cannot come and control that. The police can, but the township doesn't control that. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. And, you know, I would love, if I sit on the township committee, I would love to have more conversations about it. I would love to talk about what the township would do and what's stopping them from giving permits and what the rules that surrounding giving permits are and why are we not giving permits. I would love to hear that as well.
So, just to be clear, it's not a matter of the town not giving permits. The town does not require permits for that type of rally. And I am not saying that anybody should be excluded. But the fact is that because Maplewood doesn't require permits for this type of rally, the loud and offensive, really offensive rallies that have been happening for a year and a half started in South Orange, which has a requirement for a permit for a rally. And since when South Orange decided to enforce their permit ordinance, that group protesting started to come to Maplewood because they knew they wouldn't have to pay for a permit in Maplewood. And the permits are not cheap. You have to pay for the permit, you have to pay for insurance. So the fact that they could then move from South Orange to Maplewood is what has caused the issue. And a number of us have asked the Township Committee about it, but it has not been addressed in any comprehensive fashion. Do you remember what my other question was, or should I repeat it?
You can repeat it, but you know, I receive what you're saying, and if I do, if I'm elected into office and happens to have the opportunity, I would like to, you know, sit with you and talk more about, you know, how that can be done in a good way that we can, you know, I don't think we're going to satisfy everybody, but I think there's a conversation there that needs to be had.
Okay,
And I appreciate that.
That's good. Okay, I will repeat the other question. With your experience with the school district, I am sure you are aware that there is a federal Title VI complaint and investigation against Soma School District for anti-Semitism. As such, what are your plans to actively fight the anti-Semitism both in our schools and in our streets?
Let me say this. There is so much hate in our country right now, and of course, in some of our towns. And, you know, I would like to say I can come up with a way that I can tell people, you know, you can't behave this way. We have to have, you know, I always think about how I deal with my kids when they do something wrong. I sit them down, I tell them, you can't do this, you can't, you know, it's all about teaching. I think people act out of character, number one, because they just don't know. There is misinformation that's been given to people that have caused them to rise up and do the opposite of what they think, you know, they should be doing. But they are in this space that there's so much poured into people right now. You have anxiety, you have all these things, and people are acting out of character. There's some people that I know have done things, and I'm still sitting back and say, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you acted like that on social media or you went online and said those things. But how do we behave and how do we counteract that? We have to teach. Unfortunately, we have to be the better ones. Unfortunately, we have to be the ones that say, this is not okay. And part of it is maybe having some seminars and having some setting up some programs in our community to teach about hate. We can't have this. And because we are so divided, people have their own ideas and want to do whatever they want to do. We are not united. We are not a united front in Maplewood. And if you want to ask me why I said so, go on some of those websites online. When you post something, people attack you, and because they're behind the screen, they can say whatever they want. And they say however they feel, and they don't care. And these are mothers who have children. These are fathers who take care of their families in this neighborhood. And I think part of what we need to do, we need to have a serious conversation and check ourselves. We weren't this way before. We weren't this way before. This community was about love. This is how we started. Where we are, if we look around where we are and go on Facebook and look on some of those messages, people go nuts for no real good reason and talk really badly and probably to their neighbors that live about 20 feet away from them. And that conversation has to be had with the 26 or 27,000 people that live. We are not that many. And let the people show up that shows up. And let's talk about how we treat our neighbors, how we speak, how we hurt and harm our neighbors. Because if we are good and we are good to our community, we will be good. Because that love will spread into other neighborhoods. People will talk about us. I had a gentleman last week who I was speaking to, and he was with the New Jersey Conservation voters. And he sat in my office and he said, oh gosh, Maplewood has done an extraordinary work with their storm drains. And I sat there and I was so proud. I could have just gotten up and danced. I was like, yes. But it was just great to hear that this gentleman, they worked with this environmental company, and they were talking about the work we had done in Maplewood. I say we now. We had done in Maplewood, and it was amazing. I was like, this is great. But when we talk about hate, we can't single-handedly fix it. We all have to fix it. And that starts in our home. That starts with me checking my husband, or with me saying, oh, you can't say that. It's not okay. Or him saying to me, you can't say that. And that going out of our homes and having these conversations. I think there is a real need to have the conversation in this neighborhood. There's way too much hate that we didn't even know existed.
There has been something like a 500% increase in anti-Semitism in the past year and a half. So it's not just, I'm using the wrong words, not just the usual kind of people hate people kind of divisiveness, which we've seen for many years before October 7th. It's a very, very, very serious issue. And unfortunately, even though our towns are, very typically very tolerant and accepting, and I have lived in Maplewood for 40 years. This is a problem that in all my years in Maplewood I haven't seen before. So it's something that has to really has to be addressed. So it's not, and there are some people, unfortunately, there are people who are adults who are standing at rallies and screaming the most horrible things at Jewish people. And I'm not sure how you're going to teach them. I don't know. I really don't know. And that's why I'm asking the question.
Thank you. I think we'll move on to the next
Thank you.
question.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
very much.
coming onto the Zoom. Is there, I just want to make sure that no one hasn't had a first, can we actually go to we have some first time questions. Sorry, Sean, we'll get to you. Oh, yes, you do.
Hi, Jane.
Hi.
Thank you for coming here and telling us
Thank you.
all about yourself and your family. I'm so impressed that your kids are still paying attention. Mine would be gone.
We're taking notes.
So I wanted to ask about an issue that is, I think, really important to families in our town. And I don't know, maybe your kids will have an opinion on this, but that is bike lanes. So there's a
Oh.
meeting happening tonight about the proposed bike lanes on Parker Avenue, which would go all the way down to where the high school is, and you had kids that went through the high school. So you know how crazy it can get over
Yes,
there.
yes.
And they have a lot of kids that ride their bikes to the high
Yeah.
school
Mhm.
on Parker. And so the proposal is to put bike lanes there to try and make it safer, and also to do some traffic calming, which is this fancy term that we all use to mean calm the people who are in the cars, make them drive slower, whether we have to put in a stop sign or bump outs or speed bumps or that sort of thing. So I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about what you think about bike lanes in Maplewood. There's, different areas that we're looking at expanding. There's the Greenway. Obviously bikes would get cars off the road, which would be good for the environment, and also would give kids the opportunity to safely get around town, visit their friends on the other side of town, and it's just a bigger, picture look at streets and complete streets and making them safer for everybody. So we don't have kids hit when they're walking to school because the streets are safer, and bike lanes can be a part of that as these other traffic calming measures that I mentioned. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your thoughts, if you guys are a biking family, and what you think about this.
They're a biking family. I don't bike. I took one look at the bike and I said, there is no way I'm going to sit on that. But my friend said they're going to teach me, and maybe Diane can teach me too this summer. So yes, I am willing to learn. I'm just putting it out there. When I heard about the bike lane, I was very excited because every time we go to the shore, they take the bikes and they leave me at home, and I take a glass of wine and sit and wait for them, which is But I love the idea of the bike lanes. I love that it's on Parker Avenue. It runs from one end of Parker all the way across. So it hits the library, it hits the train station. You can go to the supermarket, all the important spots it hits, right? And that's great. And it will be calming for the traffic because now you have these wide roads that we all use, so we swerve all around the streets. We got all that room. It's 10 feet either side, 5 feet for the bike. That's the codes, 5 feet, 5 feet, 10 and 10. So the roads are smaller. People will take time driving. And Maplewood's a more walkable town. People are walking, people are biking. It's great. I love it. And I think that's what we're getting to. And, part of having that bike lane, it's great for the people who bike. My girlfriend is an avid biker and her husband is, and they come in there all dressed up in little gears and stuff. And, I wave to them. I'm like, don't get hit. She's like, oh, I'm not going to get hit. But it's great. And when they walk away, or if I see somebody biking, I'm like, do you have your flashers? I love the flashers. So, that's part of what, it's just, it's different, it's nice to have in the town. I feel like I'm in a small town, when you see that. Yeah, Craig will go again and then.
Thank you for raising bike lanes. I agree with everything you said about bike lanes and all the benefits, and New York City has done a great job. Maplewood is a little different, and I'm speaking because Parker Avenue is in the district that the two of us are the DLs for. And the complexity that calls for a little more thought is that because the streets are not as wide as in some cities, such as New York, the current plan calls for no parking on the streets ever where there's a bike lane. Now, there has been discussion that the Township Committee is thinking about it, and I don't have a good answer, but it's not as simple as that we're in favor of bike lanes. I'm very much in favor of bike lanes. When I worked in New York for many years, I acted for Bike New York in supporting their 5-borough bike tour, which is a very cool thing. But the complexity that requires the next level of thinking, and I don't have a good answer, but I think it's an important question for our residents is, what do you do when you can't park there? And, I don't expect you to have an answer, but I think that's part of the complexity of the real world of the problem that I hope the township addresses in a sensible way, as they often, when pushed, come up with compromises that address those issues. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, there's questions been asked about, parking. And I think all the homes that are looked at where the Vikings lanes are, we have the comfort of parking on the streets, which is nice. Sometimes I leave my car on the street, which I shouldn't, but we all have driveways, right? And if it takes, do we all have driveways? Those on Parker, they all have driveways. You can park your car in the driveway, and if you have a party, you can have the people who come to your party park around the corner. Or if the jitney stops, the jitney doesn't stop very long. It's compromises. It's okay. We get a bike lane or we don't get a bike lane because, so you weigh those things, and sometimes it's a little tough for the TC members to really look at all the complexities. But when we think about our kids having bike lanes to ride, and people who are avid bikers to ride those bike lanes, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to have. And I think when I looked at the bike lanes map, there wasn't a road that was so tiny. They had 10 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, and 5 feet. And that's what's required. And it brought some really good professionals in. And this is what they do for a living. They research it. They tell you how much space you're going to have for the bike lane. And when the lane is so small, at some point it's just merged into traffic, and it's not a bike lane anymore. And then it becomes a bike lane on Parker. So, I hear you, and yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with you, and I agree with you. So, but I like bike lanes myself, and I hear your concerns as well.
Thanks. Do we, I think Sean. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, yeah. So do we have, I think there's one more on the Zoom, okay.
Yes, Jane,
You
I have a
want to ask your
question. Yes. Jane, how would you feel about the issue of, New Jersey has more than 500 municipalities. It's more than the state of California. How would you feel about merging Maplewood with South Orange?
I'm not feeling good right now, Sean. Let me just put it to you. Gosh, Sean, that's a tough one. I love Maplewood being a small town, and I love South Orange being who they are. It would really take a lot of convincing for me, but I'm open to it. Nothing is impossible. Merging South Orange and Maplewood. I know the merge the schools. Remember when we did the whole SOMA thing once upon a time? We never thought it would happen. It happened. And merging South Orange, and nothing is impossible. That's a huge possibility. It could happen. It could work out. And it could be a disaster. But I think if we were to ever do that, we really need to think about how that's done. We really need to iron out what that looks like. It's two separate towns, and it's two different towns. And it feels different because I lived in South Orange, and now I'm living in Maplewood. Two completely different towns, believe it or not. Two completely different towns. And it's not like I don't like South Orange. I love South Orange. I love Maplewood. I would like you to analyze the way I said that. I'm not going to say anything else. I like South Orange. Get it? I love Maplewood, but I'm just going to leave that. So you see what I'm saying? But it's going to be, that's going to be different.
Thanks. We have one more question, and then we're gonna, this is our last question.
Hello, can
Danny
you hear
Goldstein?
me? Yeah,
Yep,
can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yep.
First of all, thank you for doing this. This is great. Second of all, there's nothing wrong with saying that Maplewood is better than South Orange because it is.
Danny Goldstein.
So, look, I joined about 30 minutes late. So if this question was asked, please, I apologize in advance. But I do have a question that is, I think, pretty important. Over the years, and I've been here, I can't believe it, I've been here for 36 years now. There have been a number of resolutions put forth by the Township Committee that are related to national events and national issues. I remember in 1991, I guess it was, after Ukraine declared their independence, there was a resolution from the Township Committee recognizing that. There was a very famous one in 2003 about the Iraqi War. There was one that was passed a couple of years after that to ask the federal government to uh, revoke the alternative minimum tax because of the impact that it had on communities like ours. And of course, October 7th, and there was a resolution related to that. And then there were a series of back and forth discussions about should there be a resolution about this, should there not be a resolution? And so my fundamental question for you is, what is the role of a township committee member when it comes to these issues that are beyond sewers and beyond services, beyond our local schools and beyond our budget? When it comes to these national issues, do you believe that a township committee member should get involved and make statements and pass resolutions on these types of things? Or should there be a fence drawn around what a township committee member should be doing? And the fence should be, the boundary should be local issues.
I would like to think there's something written that confines the township committee to what they do and say you have to stay within these perimeters. But if there's none,
There's not.
there's
There's not.
none. So why should it be put in a boundary as to whether or not they can make statements about anything? Everybody is, whether you serve on the township committee or not, I think people have a right to make statements, right? They can say how they feel, they can express themselves. But I think because there are no boundaries and nothing holding them to that, to saying you cannot speak outside of the local issues. So that gives them the right? That gives them the power to do whatever. And that goes back to, can we control people? Can we tell people what to do? On a national level, somebody who's working on a township committee, they feel like they can do anything they want within the township committee with the local laws, and they feel like they can go and make statements outside. And that's why, my friend, when we are putting people in positions, we have to make sure we are putting the right people in positions where we want them to execute what we feel that they will do for us, our values. Because if you feel like you shouldn't be making statements and I'm asking you for my vote, and you think everything that I've said doesn't align with what you want, your vote matters. Your vote matters. Because if you think about it, Donald Trump gave us Project 25. And people now are saying, I didn't know. Oh, you knew. He didn't even tell us. He wrote a book and he gave us the book. So if somebody tells you who they are, that's exactly who they are. And I can tell you who I am just from sitting here having this conversation with you. I'm very straightforward. I'm very honest. I'm not going to lie to you. I will tell it like it is. If I don't know, I say I don't know. If I don't have a position on something, if I will have a position on it, I will say to you, I will have a position on it later when I research and do my own homework to come back to you to say why I'm doing it. So that's how I feel about that, because on the local level, and good thing you asked this question. The legislative power of the local laws, they represent the community, and they do public input, they do the budget control, they do park improvement. They have all these things, but they don't say that they don't say it. But if you're working with a team of people, I would think you would be respectful enough to be able to have conversations within the team of people that you're working with and not pivot out of that except as an agreement, all right? Because that causes chaos. And I will leave that at that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jane. And thank you to everyone who came tonight, and to everyone on the Zoom, and to everyone who tunes into this later on when we have it up on YouTube. And also thank you to Max for doing a stellar job with recording. That's a wrap. We can turn it off.
Thank you.